Hello and welcome to the Roll20 tips and tricks stream. As always, I'm Judge Zed. I'm joined today by Greg, who is going to be showing me some tips and tricks in Roll20. How are you doing, Greg?
I'm doing just fine. I was part of your group for a long time face-to-face, and I think I was a little bit quicker off the mark with Roll20. So I've picked up a few things now and then, and I thought I would share them with you. So I think you're seeing my screen now?
Yes, I am, and I'm just going to slowly disappear. And cool. So now we can see the entire screen, and I will just pass it over to you.
So there's several API scripts that are available. One of them allows you to roll level 0 characters. Let me see if I've got it here.
I almost spit my tea out when you said that. I was just like, what? Because I knew that there's like API out there. I used an API script for one of my Traveler games.
Right.
But just the fact that there's a level 0 generator, yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah, it's just in the library that you can download, and it works fairly well. There's one little glitch in it that the designer knows about, but hasn't ever, I think, gotten around to fix. So, but it works pretty well. But one of the things I've been using are macros. Not a whole lot in this one, but one of the things that happens in DCC is if someone is firing a missile weapon into melee, there's a chance that if they miss their target, they hit someone else. And so I set up a little group initiative, or not a group initiative, shooting into melee macro. And when you click it either on this button here, then it pops up 50-50 chance for whether you miss someone or, of course, now Roll20 wants to be really happy. There we go. Oh no, I hit someone else. So it just makes it a little bit easier for me to tell players just to click on that button rather than would you roll a D2 or a D100 and then they have to figure out whether they're going to push the little sidebar thing or push or type it in manually. I've got it down in the bottom here, but you can also put it in the bar. I mean, in let's see here, shooting into melee. You can show it as a token action, so it shows up in the upper left corner of the screen. I might have to refresh to get that to pop in.
So wait, hold on. So I've got. Okay, no, all right. The hollow one. I just selected them, and I see the shooting into melee button. Yep. And you're gonna explain toggle door later, but what? How did you? And I noticed that these monsters have their attacks input as well. I guess you're gonna probably show me that here in a second.
Yeah, I find it really handy. There's several things that you can do with those. I will just quickly flash. This is another API script that allows you to have doors. So you can see my walls are blue and that the doors are green. So you can activate, well, right here.
Where?
See this surface here is green.
I see the vineyard is green.
The vineyard. I'm looking at the map itself. I've got the tower castle. Oh, I should tell you where I am. Yes. Come over to let's see.
Oh, I have like DM control over this place.
Yeah, yeah, so I wasn't sure you could see what's behind the scenes without the DM control.
Okay.
Come to Mage Tower A1.
All right.
There we go.
Okay, yeah, dynamic lighting. Okay, yeah, this is very similar to what I use for my dynamic lighting.
So there's a little macro you can do. It can key off this key or players but you can toggle the doors, which just opens that door. So you can see how the light is now shining into that room.
No, definitely.
Which makes it a little bit easier. I don't know if you have players who get ahead of everybody else, and they'll do something like go into a room, and there's a trap there or something else, and you just want to kind of launch at them. This makes it really obvious when that happens. Sometimes they'll sneak around, but this is one way of me doing that. There's another door color I don't have here. Yeah, it's orange, but that's for secret doors, and they can't actually open that, but you can.
Interesting. I like giving the players the control to open doors. So one of the things I was going to show you is I'm currently working on the Stonehell Michael Curtis Mega Dungeon and adapting that into Roll20. And it has thus far been kind of crazy. But is that just a single token that you can move wherever?
This is, yes, but you can also key off the players.
Oh wow! Okay.
Let's see.
But you had to.
So if they try to open the doors, it won't work. But if I do it, well, it's supposed to be orange.
And it just goes by what color you use for your doors.
For the doors and the walls.
Yeah, I don't. So if like I just have to, my walls are blue, and my doors are green, and it just picks up on that. Like I don't have to code anything else into it.
Right. You have to be kind of close to the doors, but other than that,
that is super cool. And that's just an API script?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I just found this thing with the Control L key, showing you what that particular token can see, which really helps even in the midst of play. Going, how are you seeing that, or what's going on there? So here's a token, and you can see that shooting into melee is appearing here, as well as toggle door. So this is the mage who runs the place. And it's supposed to work with him too. Why aren't you working? Toggle door. Yep.
Toggle door.
Yeah. So give that a try.
Oh yeah, I just did. Let me try it with this thing.
Yeah, those weren't reacting to me, but it's the same colored doorway, so it should work.
Maybe the two different doors are too close to each other. There we go.
Yeah, that could be.
Had to
But since I use online maps, I don't have a lot of control where the doors are. But
right. No, same here. That's really cool though. I'm gonna have to look into that one for sure. What's the name of that API script?
That is. I'll have to look that up. You can only see it, I think, from the front door. Let me see.
Well, I mean, and we can just kind of go there at the end and show everybody what all the stuff we looked at today was.
Yeah, that's fine. This is Door Knocker is the name of the script.
Door Knocker.
Mm-hmm. Alright, so Roll20 sometimes doesn't like me being it twice, so I'll close that for now. The other item that I found really handy that has to do with the API scripts are the monsters. So when you design a token for a monster, this is a gargoyle I had playing not too long ago. When you drag the token out, they can, no, it's not doing it. Let me try this. Oh, why aren't you working? There's a way that these things get numbered. And what you do is when you design the character, you assign, oh, that's why, where it says name, you type %% numbered, all caps, save it, and then when you open the setup for it in edit, you make sure that that token is the one you want. So now when I drag that token out from the sideboard here, maybe Zach, it's because you're here. Yeah, see, it numbers the characters. I must have something. Yeah, let me try this again. So if I think it was this one that I had numbered. Yeah, so let me set this token so that people can see it. That might be why it's not showing up. I don't know. In normal play, it just shows up, and it's labeled like where the character name is.
Yeah, let me try this. Let me just rejoin I'll rejoin as a player and see.
All right.
Take a look here. I might not be able to see anything.
I need to assign a token to you, but that should be possible. What's his name? Let me, oh yeah, you can be the Emerald Enchanter here.
Hey. Here, I can zoom in. But yeah, there's Trapsman 2 on automatic. Looks like they're gone now. Part of the automatic numbering API there for the monster tokens.
So it's doing it. It's just not displaying it, and I don't know why it's not displaying it. But you can see these tokens are all numbered. So if you've got several tokens and you're trying to keep track of them, this is one way of keeping track. And Zach, I noticed that my token in our game doesn't have its bubbles open. You know, when you've
like when you click on a character and the bubbles pop up above their heads with some usually with like some stats.
Yeah, this is where you assign that, is in the token bars.
Oh yeah, no, I know about all that. I don't use it really.
That's fine. So for those of you out there who may want to use it, what I found is if you put in hit point monster in this first field, which is I generally use, as one monster gets hit, it lowers everybody's hit points. So it treats the token as one token, no matter how many of the tokens are out there. So what I usually do is I go ahead and I select the attribute, and it defaults it in, and then I change that field to none, and then it keeps it independent of all the others. And I set that up for how the token is established in that process with a numbering thing. So as I bring out Satrap 4 and 5, they all start with 19 hit points, but when one of them gets hit, they don't all drop down to 11, and then all drop down to 4, and then all die at the same time.
Right, that would be... What's the fun in that?
Annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, though, if you're doing something like you've got a character that changes its shape, a shapeshifter, you could keep it assigned, and then as you bring each new shape out for them to see, it is maintaining the same hit points all the way through.
Ah, that makes sense. That's actually really interesting.
So that's one way to do it. And I don't know if you've found this with the turn order. Satrapsman 3 is paralyzed. You can enter in a turn order setting and set it to -1. And when you add this, you can change it to 4 rounds, or whatever, the D roll was. And as you loop through, it subtracts each time it passes through it. You see why that would be useful?
Yeah. How did you do that? You just set its initiative to -1?
Right. In this turn order setting option, you add a custom item. I've used it for paralyzed. I've used it for the time that a spell might wear off otherwise. Even sometimes just to keep track of, like the blessing spell.
Yeah. Add here it is, add custom item, and then round calculation. Is this vanilla? Is this standard in the UI for Roll20?
I actually haven't seen it anywhere, but one time I added a character here, and he rolled, but it didn't count for him, a 14. And so I added it thinking, oh, that's normal. And then as I run through, John's got 14, 28, 42. So I figured out from my accidental entry how to use it in other ways.
Oh, interesting. Here, I'm pulling it up on my end in a different Roll20 page. I'm just curious to see. Yeah, look at that. Wow. And so there's like lots of ways that you could apply that custom marker within the.
Yes.
That is so cool. Yeah,
and
I
have
had
multiple
no idea.
of them. The last battle I had with my Thursday group, the cleric paralyzed one creature with a low roll, and the next time around tried it again, and so they had different lengths of time that their paralyzation were lasting.
Right.
As well as it powers their weapons for a certain amount of time. So here's one character, and I was using this trick 3 different ways to keep track of what was going on.
I really like this trick. This is a trick I'm definitely going to use. So one of the things that, and I guess I should say, like, the reason why I haven't been implementing some of this stuff is because I have players who still keep track of their characters with a sheet.
Oh, sure.
And that's kind of like, so there's no cross integration for the analog character sheet, unfortunately. So I've just kind of like haven't used a lot, but like this right here is so useful for me as just like a hot tip, like for paralysis, for other spells, just for my own kind of note keeping and bookkeeping, which is for the most part, what I've been using Roll20 for. So I'm very excited about it.
It's great.
Yeah, I'm stoked. I'm stoked about that.
And I don't think that was even on my list, but as I was looking at this, I was going, "Oh yeah, this would be handy." Yeah. So here are those circles, and I use this to keep track of damage. So they had started with 19, and they took 8 points of damage, and that didn't work. So you can either do the math yourself and type in 11, or you can type in -3 and it does the math for you.
Oh, cool. Oh, the bubbles.
The bubbles.
Hit
Yep.
class. Yeah. Oh, and those are that's super useful. Part of me feels with showing the players that stuff that it's like a little bit too much info, but at the same time it's like very helpful. Like it's very helpful for players, but I definitely like for monsters I keep it secret for the most part, but also like yeah, I don't know. It's tough.
With the player permissions, each one of these has the ability to make the players see it. So visible to editors or visible to everyone. So the people don't see the monsters' names or their armor class or their hit points or even their speed. They just can't see them.
Wow.
But they're there for me.
That is super cool. No, that is a definite like no, that makes sense. You can definitely do that. I've had that as an issue before where I needed to turn viewing permissions on for like NPCs to see their nameplates and stuff. So that does make sense.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that's super cool.
So let's see. I think those were the 3 API and then an extra thing thrown in. Let me look. Character functions are pretty robust, I find. Even though I can't remember this guy's name, Sonoru, what's his first name? Can't believe I didn't bring. So if you're using what I call my testing site, you know how to move things back and forth?
Oh yeah, the transmogrifier.
Yes.
Yeah, I learned that super recently. I was like, oh, this is I was like, oh my goodness, I can finally have a testing site where I can like build stuff and then move it into games when I'm ready. Like this is amazing.
Exactly, because I found that if I'm working on a mana core in the game I'm going to be playing it, it's in the chat log, and unless I clear the chat log every week, people can scroll up and see what I've got in the works.
No, absolutely, and even more than that, yeah, it's helpful to have a different place. Like for me, I'm running eventually three different parties in the same sandbox, which is like I need to be able to like share maps between them as I add more things to the player map,
So Merlin is one of my players. So the character sheet has all these different tabs, and most of my players are keeping track of their characters using these sheets because the sheets have several strong attributes. If you want someone to make a luck check, you can go to the core stat page and click luck check, and it knows what your luck score is, and so it displays in the chat that Merlin's current luck is 16 and he rolled a 3, so he passed. It was a success. But this is also useful in other areas. Now, Merlin is a mage, and I have added to his sheet the different spells. Now, it doesn't have a compendium like some of the other sites, but it does allow you to integrate things that are happening in the game. So you can do your mercurial magic roll, and it takes into effect, if you move the cursor over the little 90 in the box, it says it rolled a D100 and it added 20 because he's got a +1 on his luck.
I'm gonna zoom in for the folks at home.
So then I have my book open and I usually look it up. So when he rolled Flaming Hands, he rolled a moderate number and ended up with no mercurial effect. I also usually put the spell page number on, which allows me to queue quickly to the page and read the spell result if they haven't done it. It also allows you to change the spell check, moving it up and down the dice chain. I'd hate to be the wizard who had a D3 on a spell check.
Oh wow,
anyway.
yeah.
And it takes that into account when you roll this. So when you do this with a mage, it asks about spell burn. And it rolls, and it knows because we're on tab level 1 that it's a first level spell. And so it knows that a 14 is a pass. And again, if you put your mouse over the number, it shows you that it takes into account the level bonus, the lucky roll, if it's an elf, the elven lucky spell, spell burn points, armor check. It will deduce your Zach, help me.
Your armor, your AC.
The penalty for wearing heavier and heavier armor.
Oh, your check penalty. Your spell check penalty.
It will.
For your,
It'll throw that in there too and come out with the number.
Ooh. I see it there. Yeah.
If you roll a crit, it then puts an addition. It doesn't do the math, but it tells you to add the caster's spell level to the spell check roll.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Very
cool. So I've also picked up another set of abilities. So abilities you define in that third tab, attributes and abilities. And I didn't know what it was for initially. And I use this ability section. So you're able to record what you've done right here and paste it into basically a macro, which then casts the spell for that character. So the one I just rolled, Flaming Hands, is by clicking on the spell. This particular magic user has a familiar that if he casts the spell through that familiar, he adds an additional point to the spell result. So I've manipulated this so when the input values pop up, it asks first for this amount of spell burn and then for the amount of the familiar bonus. So he can add a +1 for that spell and get the benefit of that in one roll. And you can see now in this spell check, there's the level stat bonus, the casting lucky roll, spell burn, check penalty, and there should be, my computer's giving me a little box there, it went away. It shows up in the bonus minus category. Now this particular character, my player he's legally blind, so he's not able to see as clearly. So these, when you click on him, are all up on his character sheet. Let me pull him out. Oh, this is him. Away. So he has Flaming Hands, Force Manipulation, Initiative.
Oh, can you show me the character sheet? I couldn't quite find it in the. If you hit show to all players, it'll pop up on my screen here.
Where do I click that? Zach, you're teaching me something now.
All right, so at the top of the character sheet, you should find a.
This is the macro commands, and typically I don't make any modifications at all. But I was playing around in order to in order to get that addition of, I hate spell. There we go. Nope, that's what I'm trying to
No,
miss.
I think it's the eyes.
C-E. See it. Missile, 2 eyes?
Oh man, now you got me. I don't know how to spell either. So
There we go. Missile. Okay, there we go. So this one, there's a mercurial effect, and it's rush of wind,
mm-hmm.
and so that displays when the result goes. But I added this little command box for allowing him to cast his spell through.
Well, that's super cool. It's just like some basic code in here.
Yeah, it's very basic. I haven't learned code much ever, but but it seems to be working for me fairly well.
Yeah, no,
But
it reminds me of how I taught myself. I mean, I taught myself HTML coding like back in the MySpace days because I wanted a cool MySpace profile. But it reminds me of that. It's just like, you take existing code and you just tweak it, and that's how you learn to code.
Exactly. So so when I click on Merlin, because I set those place in the as a token action, then these buttons show up here, and he can just click on these big buttons as opposed to kind of manipulating his way through the task sheet. It's particularly handy for initiative. So he just rolled an 18 for initiative, but he also has the long sword, and that allows those to be rolled easily as well. You dropped away, Zach.
I'm sorry. I'm just trying to get back here. There we go. It's tough. It's
right.
I'm trying to keep up with you, and I'm jumping through a lot of different apps and stuff. And all right, so
well, as long as I'm streaming, it should be a little bit easier because then we're actually looking at the same thing.
Oh no, yeah, you dropped off of that forever ago.
You see the token actions here? No? Aren't you still getting my screen?
Oh yes,
Oh,
I am. Okay, there it is. No, I am still getting your screen. I don't know why it went away. All right. Okay. Yes, I see your screen.
Let me see. So if I switch this to judge that. That should give you some control. But anytime you click on it, if I've taken the time to do it, then this is the common attacks of that particular monster. So there's initiative, and then he has an iron spiked tail or a scorpion tail, shooting in the melee for his tail attacks, toggling doors, bite claws. So this one's fully outfit, other than I can't get the name to display.
Wow. I mean, that's a level of integration that like I have not yet even gotten to. So I'm very well blown away by all of this so far.
Another one is periodically a party member will take off somewhere else, and there's an aspect that I need to be better at controlling on Discord, moving them off the voice channel so they're not hearing what's going on with the main party and vice versa. But what I usually do at this point is I go ahead and do they can't see what's going on, they can only hear what's going on. So if you look up here to the page toolbar, there is all these other maps that are available.
Yes.
So if I grab Judge Zed and move him up to Mage Tower A2, he's on Mage Tower A2. He's able to see what's going on here as well.
Yeah, that's
I learned that
cool.
fairly. The flip side of that is okay, he's realizing he's in something over his head. So again, you just pick this little flag up that's hanging here and move it over to the player's ribbon, and now he's back.
Ah, that's so cool. That is so freaking cool.
It's so useful with the splitting of party stuff. I just need to be better with the verbal stuff. But
No, I've definitely thought about splitting parties with the verbal thing in case it ever happened. It hasn't happened yet, but now that I know I can physically
well,
split
it did
the
a
group.
little bit.
I guess
when we were
did.
traveling back to the town, there were two different groups of us, and it actually didn't matter that we were hearing what was going on in the other stream.
That's that's also the other element of it. Is like sometimes it matters, sometimes it doesn't. In a dungeon setting though, like I'm working on Stonehell right now, like once that once a player falls down a pit trap and ends up on a different level of the dungeon, like then it totally matters, and you do want to like split the party like that and you know have them go back and forth. So yeah.
In my Discord channel, I have 3 different vocal channels set up, and I've used it before to slide someone over. I think the module with Courts of Chaos, the Chaos Lords visit each character individually, and you don't want that conversation to be verbal to everybody else. So I've just dragged people over, said I'll be back, or you'll pop into a meeting with me in a minute, and so I have that conversation, slide them out, slide them back in again. And so that's a way to do that even with this with Roll20, just moving them from one display map to the other.
Oh, so does it work with the I guess that was one of my other questions
I've never
for you.
used sound, but
You don't use sound in Roll20.
No, I've just had too much difficulty with it. It seems like there's some lag even on dice rolls if there's a lot of users up.
Mm-hmm.
And when the vocal is thrown in there, it just seems to make even more kind of delays and
yeah, that's
poor transmission.
That's what I've heard from most people. I mean, Roll20 is the only free virtual tabletop that's out there for people to use. And it yeah, I mean it's got some hiccups, it's got its own issues, but I think as a shared like whiteboard tabletop space, it really can't be beat.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I could not have made the transition from tabletop to online as easily, I think, with other things that I've poked my nose into. So
oh, I mean, like my biggest hurdle was just my old computer. Like I didn't have any of the equipment. If it wasn't for Quigley hooking me up with like a newer model laptop, I wouldn't be running games at all. So it took me.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I'm super stoked on like being able to finally. I feel like I'm actually like coming into form again, and like I'm actually to the level where I used to be. It's good. Weird. It's really weird. But yeah, it was like after a full year of just like having my legs kind of kicked out from under me, like because I had the briefcase, everything was all analog. I really prided myself. And that's, to me, it's been a really difficult thing to adapt to a virtual tabletop space and the trappings of that, because I so much want to have people around the table, like at a party, like having fun, throwing coins around and all that. Like, so I still use bottle caps for enemies and the luck coin. You showed me how to do the luck coin thing. Yeah, that is. I don't think I'm ever gonna change that. I don't think that I'm gonna see myself investing in a ton of monster tokens, because on top of everything else, like I give all my monsters a unique coat. Like kobolds are all good. They're gonna be a different shade of kobold than you've seen before. Same with like hobgoblins and all that stuff. Like they're all gonna be very unique, and I will. My new goal is to not use words like that. I don't want to use words like hobgoblin and kobold, because surface dwelling creatures get put in bestiaries, but dungeon dwelling creatures only get told about by the people who survived them, and they speak about them in conflicting descriptions. So I want to like create that as an experience for the players. But yeah, what are some of the other tips and tricks that you've got for me?
So I had an encounter where an opposing cleric, who was a demon actually, cast darkness, and it took me a couple days to figure out how that actually works in a dynamic way.
Okay.
Because when you think about it, turning off the lights in a dungeon doesn't turn off lights for those with infravision or torches. But the sense I pick up from the spell is it's just darkness. And so what I did is on the object and token level is I drew a shape that was black and that was filled with black. And then I drew, okay, well, this is the wrong thing. But anyway, I drew a circle over it. And now you can't see what's underneath this. Sure, the player kind of knows where they were in the room before they started, but they can't even see the little square. If you put this on the map level, they can't see the room, but they can still see themselves. This is the token I had selected. So by moving it to the map level, or the token level, then people can't see. And at least they didn't figure out how to see with it. And I found that very helpful, that event. At least that's my interpretation of the darkness spell.
No, for sure. So there's another way to do that as well.
What's that?
I can see that you're already using the dynamic lighting. If you go to your dynamic lighting tab over there, the eye with the little slash through it. Down a couple more.
Dynamic lighting level, yes.
Dynamic lighting level, and then go to your dynamic lighting tab right underneath, right above the initiative clock and below the ruler. All right, so here you've got permanent darkness.
Permanent darkness.
Yeah, so this is areas of your map that have the same effect of shadow, although that darkness is permanent, and you can do it as either a rectangle or a polygon. So it has the negative effect of it's only it's you can't do it as a circle, which I always viewed that spell as a circle, but you can draw that however you like. And solidify it, and that it becomes like a permanent area of darkness. And so it's another way to do it. Oh, you're still drawing the darkness there. So one of the things that I found with, and it looks like, you have to right click to stop. And I would always, don't ever. Oh God, what is it? When you like cross over on top of a shape when you're drawing a shape, that messes up the dynamic lighting thing so bad. I've been using dynamic lighting for like maybe a couple weeks now, and I just run into a couple hiccups here and there, and that's like the main one. But it seems like you, for the most part, get around it by just using lines in your dynamic lighting, which seems like a smart idea.
Yes.
But that's an alternative. I've also found that just throwing, when you right click on a shape in the token layer, you can right click it and send it to the back, so that if for whatever reason you still wanted players to see, where their tokens were, or if you wanted to be able to see. I think that the permanent darkness will still allow you to see the tokens, but will make it so the players cannot. Whereas the token thing keeps you, the game master, from seeing where everything's at.
Right.
But I think
that's
darkness.
much easier.
I think darkness does. affect infravision, the spell, I believe. I could be wrong. I want to look it up, though,
It's
because...
just the way I've choose to do it. Because it's a cleric, I think they're looking back to those tales where, someone was aware of the eclipse, quote unquote, and cast darkness over a town to show the
Oh,
power
yeah, like
of their...
a Connecticut Yankee in King Arthur's court.
Exactly. But I think so that would have just been nighttime darkness. It wasn't something bigger than that. But I've chosen to take it broader to be a little bit more.
Oh, so yeah, the spell
immense,
itself
more
is
powerful.
very... The spell itself is very, yeah, it does... It does seem like you're right. It wouldn't affect infravision, which is kind of funny. It just automatically extinguishes all terrestrial forms of light. So like it, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, it's not the way I would have thought of that spell, but it does make sense. So technically, you wouldn't have to if you're using, help me out here. If you're using dynamic lighting, and you have an enemy cleric that casts darkness on a certain location your characters are in, the way I would draw in the GM's lair a shape to show me where the players are, right? And I would just get rid of their vision, and and have them just get rid of their vision and then have them describe to me where their character moves and how they move there. And if they manage to get out of that area of magical darkness, I'll turn their vision back on. But until that time, they're stumbling around in the dark, and I still get to see everything. But with their vision turned off, it's basically magical darkness. You've also got the demi-humans with infravision should already have like a thing for that in their dynamic lighting. I believe there's a see in darkness sort of thing.
So the offside of that method is that if you're a member of the party and you're outside of that circle, you can see into it, whereas my reading of the spell would be you shouldn't be able to.
That is true. I think that's where the permanent darkness would come in, or the shape itself. That's really interesting. That spell adds such a unique complication to running virtual tabletop games.
It does, yes.
Like how do you handle? Because it's always been a spell of much contention between judges and players of like how darkness actually does infravision really work? Does it not? How does this spell truly function? And I think just having it at the virtual tabletop is just adding an extra element to that like long standing discussion.
Yes, but so far no one's really complained about it. In fact, they're eager to use it on their opponents at some point. So. But I agree with you with the monster names. I've done both using existing monsters, like orc, but having their properties be different. I was also the time I used darkness before. This is the guy who cast the spell.
Oh wow, that is amazing. Is that Bob Odenkirk? Who is that? No,
it was just it was an article, or it was an online ad for pants.
It's Mr. Pants Man.
Yeah, exactly. And you can see he's a nice sized demon there, 29 hit points, and he cast that spell. And my player said, "Well, why'd you give us Mormons?" And it's like, well, okay, I should have thought about that, but
no. Well, this is about pants, but I guess the players have their own lens through which they view everything. But where is the? I'm trying to find this table. There's an excellent table, I think, in the judges section. Yeah, here we go. Of the core rulebook. No, it's the monster section. Yeah. Where it's got variety in humanoids, where you can roll a d20 for like what color they are and what kind of weaponry or
Yes.
appearance and all that
Yeah.
stuff. That initially I thought that was like, what do you mean humanoid? Like I was like, humanoid? Like what is that for? Like humans? It's like no, it's for goblins and hobgoblins and all that stuff. So I've been using this for even for like kobolds and other stuff like that. But they've also got one for undead. And then if you go into like even further into the annual, they have similar tables for insects and I want to say another kind of enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah, bugs,
So-
chaos lords, mutants, degenerates, psychophants,
Degenerates, yeah.
servitors, and juggernauts. Yeah. Constructs, giants. Yeah, they have a ton. They have just a ton of stuff in here.
So here is a token that it's actually working on. You can see Estivator number 1,
Yeah,
and when I click on it, the little circles appear up there.
very cool.
I don't know why it wasn't working before, but it's working with my Estivator. And I use strange names. There's a mountain in my sandbox I called Mount Barigamus.
Ooh.
And I gave a character who discovered what it was a permanent luck point when she said, "Really?" She said, "That means the noise that stomachs make."
The noise that I love it.
So from then on, they would start, chanting Borborygmus because they ended up there for their big conflict in the volcano. So, and there was lots of stomach noises going on when you were on the surface of a particular volcano. So it was fun. Initiative attack rolls, I did that one. Maps.
Construct. Yeah, I'm just kind of flipping through here. They've got like so many. So my idea that it's a shower idea I had like 2 days ago was as I'm working on, reskinning basically all of these like classic monsters to give them unique descriptions, and if I'm going to like myself move away from naming the monsters, my idea is to encourage players to encourage the players to name the monsters themselves.
Ooh, that's a great idea.
It's like you encounter, I have this description of a kobold. It's a scaly humanoid about 3 feet tall, regular bipedal limbs, got 2 arms, it's holding a spear, it's got like red and black scales and like a repeating stripe pattern like all over its body, and it's wearing some rags. What do you call this thing? Or not even say like, what do you call this thing? Just describe it like that and not say anything else. Eventually, there are a bunch of these things. It's like, the players will eventually call them something, whether they realize it or not. Like they will end up naming the creatures in the dungeon.
Yeah, that would be great. You can see I've got Scoth. That's one of my attempts. I mean, I'm not even sure what this creature's real name is.
Oh, I like that. No, so yeah, my campaign world is actually called Torque because from way back in the day, because that's the name of the paper towel dispenser company at the KFC that I worked in at the time. Is Torque paper towel dispensers, and I was like, that would be a really cool like heavy metal magazine comic strip setting. I think like that would be cool. So that's why I called my original fantasy world Torque. But yeah, so
I think that was the major stuff I wanted to share that were Roll20-ish.
Oh no, yeah, that's.
Have you about restricting access and the dynamic lighting?
Yes, I do. For their movement, okay. Absolutely. Do you know about the setting up dim versus bright lighting? And also, my question for you is, what is your torch brightness? What do you set torch brightness for?
I've been going back and forth. I keep thinking about a real torch, and maybe you can read with the torch at 10 feet. But so the last few times I've been setting up for 10 feet for bright and 20 feet for semi-bright. But I've also used 20 and 40 before. I have a little bit mixed ideas about that. What about you?
So yeah, I have been also going back and forth. That's the whole reason I ask is because I'm going back and forth. I looked up in the there's like an OS, not OSR, an OGL for a. I think that's in the permanent darkness, so it won't even work.
I was wondering why it wasn't working. You're right. Over here. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
There we go.
So, yeah, I've been doing the. I found in 3.5 D&D they said a torch gives off 20 feet of bright light with an additional 20 feet of dim light. So I set that up in Roll20, and it seems fair enough. I've been trying it out in the dungeon, and honestly, the dungeons are so cramped. Like, the old school dungeons are so cramped that, like,
yes,
40 feet of dim light almost never matters. Like, and if it does, it's like a thin sliver of a hallway you see, like, at the far end of your vision. So I haven't had too much of an issue with it. The one thing I did do was I cut down, doing Stonehell, some of the dungeon levels were, how do I put this? Some of them have some natural lighting, but, you know, for the most part, there's 10-foot squares. And getting those 10-foot squares to line up with the grid on Roll20 was really difficult for me. But I realized that if I just, you know, because it's different for every single level of the dungeon. It's different no matter what I do, but eventually I scrubbed through the decimal places until I find that perfect sync. Then I get a calculator out and I cut that number in half perfectly to turn the 10-foot square dungeon into a simple 5-foot square dungeon. And I found that helped out with the lighting thing. Like, I needed to make sure that my pages were properly scaled, I would say. That's for the torch thing. And I found that once I scaled them, I didn't mind the 2040 too much. But I'm curious as to, like, what what does the original, like, player's handbook say about torch light?
Yeah, I would have to look it up. I don't know.
I would too.
This is another thing that I've done is set up a template for create new page that has the settings I like. You know, universal lighting, lighting boundaries or lighting controls where people can go, rather than having to set it each time I set up a new map.
That is really smart. All right, so I'm gonna pull it up here because I'm curious. I gotta know. Player's Handbook, Dungeons and Dragons, AD&D. I have the physical copy of the DMG, so I figured I'd pick up the Player's Handbook a little while ago and just get a feel.
I've been trying to only download maps that don't have the grids because of the problems that you were talking about. So, because it is cumbersome to try to figure out.
It definitely is, and I try to do that as much as possible, but there are just times when you're not able to do it. You know, you have to use a gridded map, and sometimes maps are gridded and, like, they don't even mean to have them gridded. Like, a lot of the DCC maps are just naturally, like, they build their dungeon tiles like that if you're pulling it from a PDF. So, yeah,
I found that with some of the maps that the squares aren't consistent across the whole page.
Yep, that could be an issue too.
They're still 5 feet across, but it's now an inch and an eighth instead of an inch.
Right. Some of those, like, hand-drawn Doug Kovacs maps, they've got a lot of, like, character, but they're not they're not really perfect for tabletop play, and I have used them to some success and some non-success, but I still love them so much. I mean, the Dead Kovacs maps are beautiful. What map is this? Is great.
Oh, what is this? I'd have to learn how to. I was going for it because I thought it had grid lines, but I'm not seeing grid lines now. Oh well. Definitely. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time learning how to make the grid lines fit the dungeons.
Yeah, it is tough. It is very difficult to do. But and it's taken me like 20 minutes sometimes just to get them to perfectly match up. But once they perfectly match up, it's such a satisfying feeling.
Oh, and it works so much better with the dungeon. I mean, that was the problem with this tower, is so much of it was at an angle that it was really difficult to get the squares to line up with anything. So this is a wall. Well, it's got 1/8 of this and 3/4 of this and 1/4 of that. And you can get tokens on here that the players are moving around themselves, but they get stuck somehow over borders, and then they can't move them at all. So I'd much prefer more linear maps than some of these. This one is just really beautiful, but not very practical.
All right, so I think I found the section on lanterns. I don't think that the AD&D gives you a good. I don't think it gives a good answer. It does say that a regular lantern is like 30 feet of light.
30 feet of what kind of light?
30-foot radius of light is standard lantern, shuttered or hinged sides. It is not directional, as in light cast in all directions. A bullseye lantern is 60-foot beam of light. Beacon lantern is a 240-foot beam of light. Prow of a ship. Yeah, so I mean, they're just saying 30-foot radius of light. So to me, that is a 15-15 from a lantern, which seems about right. I feel like torchlight could even be like 20 foot, so like 10, you know, 10 foot bright with like a 20-foot dim. But I'm not sure, you know. I haven't found like a really good solid answer on that, or like even solid science behind it. Like I know a single candle is 1 lumen.
You know, the directional light I've used in like dungeons where there's some reason that a light is only shining one direction. It might be a lamp on a post, and so it's not sending light behind it, it's just sending it out.
Oh, is there a way to do that? Oh, you have it right there.
Yeah. So here it's a 90-degree arc centered on 0 degrees. It's directional light. It's a whole little section here.
Huh. All right, cool.
And, you know, I don't have anyone using a lantern right now, but this would be one way of dealing with that issue, that a lantern is different than a torch. And it also would be that cumbersome. Okay, they can't see what's behind them as easily as they can see what's in front of them. So either they're spinning their character around a lot to make sure that nothing's sneaking up on them, or they might get surprised quite often.
All right, hold on. I've got an answer to the torch question here.
Yeah?
So it is an OD&D answer. Oh wow! All right, so Scientific American released a study. So 20 to 30 yards indicates a bare minimum radius of visible illumination of 30 feet, half of 20 yards, maybe 45 feet, possibly even 60 or 90 feet, depending on how liberal above the usage of good is taken. So in D&D and AD&D, first edition PHB, a torch was given a 40-foot radius. Compatible with the research above, and the light spell is described in this way. So equal to torchlight in brightness, but the sphere is limited to 4 feet in diameter. Is that 4 feet or 4 inches?
A torch for 4 feet?
Oh no, I mean that's for the light spell. No, but yeah, it says it seems so 40 feet is what it gives you in first edition, and first edition does not designate between light and dim light. So it would seem that the 5th edition standard of 2020 is accurate, yeah.
And I would think there'd be quite a difference depending on what material you're using for your torch. If it's just straw versus oil-soaked straw.
Well, what was it? So Scientific American used a bundle of loosely twisted threads which had been immersed in a mixture formed of 2 parts by weight beeswax, 8 of resin, and 1 of tallow.
Okay, that seems pretty normal.
Yeah, that seems like
all Middle Ages kind of stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, that feels very on point. And now, if you made your own torch in a dungeon out of like a ripped up shirt and some straw and like some ichor that you found, and it's like sparking and smoking and like giving off like some flickering light in like a 5-foot range, I could see that. But like if you went and you spent your copper piece on a torch, I would assume it's got at least this stuff. But resin, that's like from a tree, right?
It is, yes.
Yeah, it's tree resin, so that's
sap,
pretty
so
easy. Oh, so yeah, that's easy to get in a medieval time where everything's built out of trees. Beeswax, tallow is just fat, animal fat.
Right.
So yeah, that's all. Yeah, I mean, unless you're very ill-equipped in a dungeon or something really bad happened, there's not really a good reason for a character not to have one of these torches. But if it took place, like I say, give him 5 feet, dim light only, maybe 10 if you're going to be very generous. But
the Grimtooth catalog book talks about a torch that's actually a trap. It burns fine for 5 minutes and then it explodes.
Oh, what? That's awesome. Actually, and that also makes so much sense.
So it's I was running the Grimtooth dungeon and I put some conveniently laying equipment laying around, because players don't always remember to pick up those torches on the way to the dungeon. And it was fun to have it go off. So
that is great. Did you kill a player with it?
I was using it. I was anxious with Grimtooth's Museum of Death that I was going to kill level 1 characters off right away. So I was running one of my groups who were about level 3 through it. So it wasn't enough to kill them, but it was enough to say, "Oh, that works. Oh, good. I'll keep that." So all right. The other things they didn't use. So, but that one they used.
Here's an interesting question that I see a couple interesting answers on. How long do torches last in your game?
Yeah. So far, my people haven't really been in a dungeon where they have to spend an hour underground. So I haven't kind of like the portal under the stars.
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's a.
There's some artificial light in there, but they also need to start with torches if they're going to see anything at all.
So here's what I'm finding is that torches.
Half hour.
It's like 20 minutes to an hour,
Okay.
which is so 2d3s. 2d3 times 10 minutes seems like
Right.
it would be the fairest answer, and it would change from torch to torch because they're not all going to be perfect, you know. Which to me, that's an extra level of work that I wouldn't always want to put on myself, but having a, you know, if I'm going to be doing timekeeping on my end anyway, what I've been doing is a 12 by 6 grid for like 12 hours of the day, or like a 6 by 6 grid, and just kind of like ticking off 10-minute turns as the players go, and using that to, you know, figure out when everybody's torches go out would be really a lot of fun.
So when would how do you match play time with real time?
I seldom do that. Occasionally I will. So for group discussions, for example, I'm supposed to, for the Stone Hell, just because it's the dungeon I'm working on, it says you have to check for wandering monsters every 2 turns, which in DCC terms is every 10 minutes. If the players are, you know, they take a rest in a room, and they're just going to recuperate their hit points or whatever, and it's going to take them, you know, they roll it out, it's going to take them 30 minutes or whatever.
Right.
They can spend 30 minutes at that point just doing table talk amongst themselves as to what their next plans are, without incurring any, you know, extra negatives. After 20 of those minutes, I will roll a random encounter to potentially, you know, interrupt their short rest. But if they're not doing a short rest, or they're not taking, you know, if they just killed all the monsters in a room and now they're going to spend an hour arguing about, you know, where they're going to go next, that's when I start counting things as in real time. Okay, or also occasionally if it's very cinematic for the story to do that, like, you know, they've got like a hostage situation or some other like time sensitive happening going on, I will put a timer up, but usually in that case I'll put like it on my phone, and I'll set my phone down on the table, or just have some kind of visual timer for the players. But yeah, for the most part I try to just do timekeeping as 10-minute turns or more.
No, that's what I would think about. You know, I find that my group, once they kind of get to know each other, tend into chatterboxes, and they'll be at some crux point of the action, and all of a sudden they're talking about something that maybe should be talked about somewhere else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I mean, if it's off table talk, like if we're talking about something that isn't D&D, while we should be, you know, like while there's monsters about, I will occasionally like fudge the dice and just have, you know, a monster show up, or like, you know, a kobold enters the room and starts like mopping in the corner, and you're like, wait, what? Oh, we're still in a dungeon. Why are we talking about, you know, whatever we're talking about? Yeah, I try to do that, especially if they're doing off table discussions. But I'm trying to think if there's any other. I mean, you've shown me a ton of really cool and helpful tricks that are really going to help me out in the future here. I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that we need to cover. Oh yeah, could you show me the list of API scripts that you use in your game?
Oh, sure.
We'll get that on the stream for everybody.
So the API scripts are in the game's settings section.
Mm-hmm.
And Door Knocker calls path math, matrix math, vector math, and walls all as part of its. When you load Door Knocker, all of those get loaded.
Oh, okay.
I haven't figured out how group initiative works yet. It didn't seem real straightforward as It's supposed to roll everybody at once.
See that. I would absolutely love that. I would say that's my biggest. That's the one thing that I want to improve with my games is the amount of time it takes for me to roll up 12 monsters into initiative. You know.
Yeah, I've just generally been having one monster roll, and that's when all the monsters go. Or each class, like the clerics will be one, and the mages will be another, and the foot soldiers will be a third.
I do like that. I feel, and especially if you're switching it up, like you have this large group of enemies, and there's gonna be different classes of that one enemy. Like we have like mages in this group, and some foot soldiers, and like a few leaders. But to me, and that's something I've done in my games a lot. Is just had the players roll initiative, and have like a player initiative count and a monster initiative count, or have monsters roll into player initiatives. What I've been doing lately is rolling all of my monster initiatives beforehand, whenever I can. And at a certain point, once it's like 50 monsters in a group, I just say that we're gonna count that as one monster. That's one group of stampede damage or whatever at that point. But yeah, it's difficult.
A herd of bees, you don't want to track every individual.
You wouldn't track a swarm of bees. You'd track the bees as a swarm. You wouldn't track a hive as 100 individual bees and roll initiative for all of them. So why would you do that with a group of monsters? But at the same time, like if they're fighting like 20 beakmen, I will roll in it because I see the need. I see like the need if you're fighting that many of the same kind of enemies and they're all gonna go at the same time. Like the action economy is no longer on your side, and like having good initiative scores is part of having an action economy that like helps your side out. So it's definitely something that like I don't want to gloss over completely and ignore. But at the same time, like, it's lagging my games now. Like, it's taken me, like, 10 minutes to get all 30 of these monsters in initiative. I wish that there was a way I could just roll initiative for all of them at once.
Right. Yeah. No, that'd be nice. So I'm still playing with that one. You can see this is one of my games that I'm running, and it's not here because I haven't figured out how it works yet.
But what is... what are those two right there?
Foderator is the level 0 for DCC.
That's
character
right.
generation.
Yeah, no, you got to show me how that goes. Does it generate a whole
group I'll show you here.
Yeah.
No, one at a time.
Oh, that's good. No, that's because I would use it. I wouldn't use it for like the level 0. Like the funnel, but for like I need a hireling. I want to hire somebody. Who do I get? Like I would absolutely use it for just a quick like generate them.
So here's the new character generator macro, and you click on it, and when it's active, come on, talk to me.
You might have to click on in bar maybe.
No, it's just taking a bit. Lag.
And it'll show up in the chat then?
Yes. Let's see, when would we have last? Probably the thing to be is in a different game. Let me see if.
It looks like maybe it went through though. Nope, I was wrong. It's not the first time. Not the first time I've been wrong.
Yeah, let me go into a smaller world. Maybe it has something to do with what I've got going on. I liked what you did with the portal, with the different creatures that they encountered.
Oh yeah, fun. I kind of like mixed the whole thing up. Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I knew if I was gonna run Portal, you know, you gotta make it different, make it unique. This is very cool.
This is one of those maps that didn't quite work, even though it was made for tabletop adventuring. It was close enough. So I went to macros. There we go.
There it is. Oh wow!
And it does Judge Greg, so it pulls up a fake token, but it also does the full character sheet.
No way. So you can just start leveling them up. Wow.
Yeah. So the occupation fence. The one thing that doesn't convert from the chat to the box is the equipment. So when you go down here, the hammer is small, but if you notice under weapons, there's nothing here.
Oh,
so you have
right.
to add the weapon yourself. So, you just add dagger.
Yeah. That's not too bad. Is there a way to edit that API so you can maybe put some custom occupations in there?
Oh yes. So they come with a table. 3 tables, I think they are, and they're in these rollable tables section.
Oh no way!
So yeah, you can add or subtract things from it. Occupations. The way these work is.
Yep, I've seen this. Style.
The one is the priority of that item. So if you want 10 out of 100 people to get a flask of oil, you could change this one to a 10, and then it would give that 10 times the likelihood of getting. But yeah, no, here's the. I love this one. A shoehorn. What do you want to do with a shoehorn?
That's amazing. Yeah, because I have some books that give lots of extra occupations, and it would be really cool to be able to utilize them in this way. This is super amazing.
Well, and I've adapted in my main world because there's the dwarves are in one part of the world and the elves are in another part, and there are some rogue components that kind of go through, but it's certainly not 20% of the possibilities of someone who's interested in. So I've changed down a little bit. I've shrunk them a little bit.
See,
and I've added the dwarven the gnome in there as well.
Very cool. I have kept everyone human thus far. As the 2 groups that I have in the game are going to be from some human cultures that are pretty insular, I would say, due to like their history they have with the dwarves and some of the other demi-humans. But
you can see I have gnomes here. I've added it in.
Love it, and it doesn't need to be a certain number because you're not using
No.
You can have any number of occupations.
Dice.
Yeah, you can have any number of occupations you want. That's amazing, and you can even change it up for if you're doing America or anything. Yeah, that is super awesome.
So yeah, so if I have a group of people who are rolling up level 0, they can all roll their own. And other than that one aspect of the weapons, it works fairly well. I found these cute tokens, and there's 4 different patterns with different background colors. So I've used those with this periodically for them to.
Yeah, that's very cool.
In fact, I've got one character who calls herself Pothead because this is the one that survived.
That is amazing.
She insisted on the same token too, so she's running around with it.
Oh, I love the way this looks. This looks great.
Isn't it? It's wonderful.
Oh.
So.
Yeah, that's amazing. And what did you say didn't work about this map? Does the grid not match up perfectly, or?
It's just a little. Or this one probably does. It may have been the one that I've got the PDF of the book. I think the book one is off a titch. Let me see. But the hand drawn are pretty good. I used for let's see, where are they here? I went online and grabbed the clay figurines from the Hidden City in China for the tokens.
Yes. The Terracotta Warriors.
And they're all numbered.
Oh, wow. Wow. That's impressive.
And I just changed the color for the generals and for the emperor, but they're all the exact same token, just modified a little bit.
That is super. That is super rad. Here, I want to show off. My map real quick. I'm gonna share.
Sure.
Before I jump off here. Let me see if I can. Oh no, that's not it. Let's see. Here we go. I'm going.
Where would I see?
I'm turning off. Or I think maybe you might have to stop sharing your screen so that I can share mine. How do I share my screen? Oh, maybe I have to disable streamer mode? I want to show that. How did you stream your screen to me? All right, do you see can you still see my screen?
Oh yes.
All right, cool. All right. So this is my underground dungeon foundry where I've been working, and Stonehell is a very, very good, cool dungeon.
Bit of a lag.
Yeah, a bit of a lag. It'll take it a second to load up here.
Could be my end.
I might need to adjust my.
All right, I'm back.
Oh, here, I'll turn off
live.
I turn off my camera. All right, I think we're still here. Hello?
Oh yeah.
All right, so this is Stonehell. Are you still there?
Yes, I am.
All right, cool. Sorry, I thought I heard you drop out. So Stonehell is a mega dungeon with like 10 levels, and each level is made up of 4 or more little quadrants that I've cut out of the book, brought into GIMP, which is a photo editing software, and taken out all of the things that tell you where the traps are, some of the hidden doors, all that good stuff. And I've just gone ahead and I've stitched all 4 maps together, and put dynamic lighting over the whole thing. I didn't know about the door API, or I would have been using that. But I think that this is gonna be one of the best ways to run this dungeon. Simply with the dynamic lighting is just gonna be next level. The one thing I'm worried that the dungeon's just too big.
Right.
I'm worried that like it's gonna lag. But I'm hoping that because it's gonna be like small little sections being revealed slowly over time, that it won't be too big of an issue. But I mean that is yet to be seen. If it doesn't work out, I am prepared to just kind of like cut the dungeon into individual quadrants and work with it from there. But for now, I'm really excited to get this kind of finished off. I've got three more levels to go before it's completely ready. But this is like my my little pet project I've been working on as of late.
So the dynamic lighting, switching to the door mode, you could do piecemeal based upon where people were. Um, are you using doors anyway?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm just planning on like deleting the doors by hand as players go through them,
Yeah.
or
No,
moving that around.
that's
But
what I did before.
yeah, if I would definitely consider getting that API and look into seeing if I can utilize that properly.
So supposedly there's one API script that if you click on a wall, it automatically outlines it in dynamic lighting. But I kind of take one thing at a time. So
Yeah.
um, the other thing I've learned with the like hidden doors, I make the doorway for that overlapping the wall so that it looks as unblemished as possible.
That's
Because I don't
oh
know
yeah.
about you, but I'm not able to. I'm not always able to keep straight lines.
No, and neither am I. I do delete secret doors, and like copy paste like clean sections into what would otherwise be like. So there's like a room in the dungeon that is actually an elevator, and
Right,
on the judge's map, that room is like candy cane like crosshatched, so you know that this room may or may not even show up on this level.
right.
Uh, but I was able to go in with the Photoshop there and kind of clean that up, so it does look like a normal room. But I know, based on I know looking at my map to make the roll to see if that room's actually there or if I need to cover up that room, for the players with permanent darkness or whatever.
You know what I've done at times is I've taken those maps, and there's a couple of websites that allow you to design those, and I've just deleted everything uh, where you could walk, rooms and hallways and everything, and then I've taken tiles uh, and laid it underneath it. So it might have a sand floor, and it actually looks like sand instead of just the little white squares of a dungeon.
That's a
That's
really
how
good idea.
that's kind of how I've gotten around the thing with T marked in the walls
Yeah.
or in the middle of the floor, is just to get rid of the floor, and then it puts something else underneath it.
That is very
Uh,
smart. I've also I found keeping everything like white, like black and white, allows you
mhm.
to just in Roll20, like there's been a couple times where I've like just pulled like the mall funnel for crawling under a broken moon. I just pulled that map directly into Roll20, and I used the draw shape tool to just draw white squares over all the traps, and then they're basically invisible at that point. The players can't see them at all. And it was just like flush part of the background.
Hmm.
So that was pretty
Yeah,
helpful.
that'd
And
be good.
that I've also done it in the Stonehill project a couple of times. I know you can't see it. Let me see if I can pull up. I think it's here. There's a couple areas where the maps cross over because they're all quadrants. So like right here,
Right. Yeah,
uh,
there's a little. Yeah.
you can kind of tell. You can tell that I've gone in and covered that up, but because the lines on the grid match up with the squares so well, you like almost can't tell that it's not there. And my hope is that the players won't realize that these are separate quadrants for any other reason than that they're stocked with different monsters. Like, I'm hoping that they don't use any meta knowledge about the map to realize where they're at is my goal. I even made the map slightly larger than it needs to be to kind of confuse them a little bit, hoping that they'll expect there to be more than there is, or maybe to expect there to be less than there is, or whatever they manage.
I think that's the advantage of changing monsters up, because there's a lot of meta knowledge out there. One of the last episodes I ran was Beauty and the Beholder, and they all expected to meet this, level 10 monster that shoots death rays at everybody, and instead it was just a fairly simple character that looked like a beholder but had none of the really crazy stuff that a full beholder did, and that way they learn not to expect the regular thing as we move around.
Yeah, it's a shame that D&D has become so self-referential that even if you're just going to use some like off the wall monsters from the monster manual, players are going to know what they are. You're like, "Oh, it's a feathery ursine creature with the beak of a bird," and they're like, "Oh, it's an owlbear." You're like, "Yeah, all right, fine, whatever." They
you gotta throw other things in there.
Yeah,
there's a dungeon they went into briefly. They were kicked out for not wanting to convert. But if they had gone down another level, they would have run into it was a temple of the snake god. I had feather boas around.
Oh, wow.
That strangled people. That was their attack.
That is hilarious.
So you got to throw some things in there. Oh, and I have fun on April Fool's Day, so I've got to work today on my joke characters.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if you noticed the mage in that first one I showed you, who looked like he was wearing nothing.
Oh, yeah.
So there's that joke in the manual. I think it's where the armor page is, where this scantily dressed maiden is wearing plate armor, and this heavily dressed male is wearing full armor.
Oh, right. I remember that joke.
So I as an April Fool's treasure that they found was a G-string plate armor that didn't affect magicians at all. So he could get the benefit of armor class 8 or whatever it is without the penalty. But it only worked if he wasn't wearing anything over the G-string.
Yep, I've definitely seen magical items like that. There's one like that in Hot Springs Island, which I'm thinking about.
Yeah.
Have you read any of that?
No, I haven't.
So Hot Springs Island, it won Best in Show at Gen Con a couple years ago, and it's 2 books. One is a book for the players that is like an in-universe guide to this mysterious island. And then the other one is like for the dungeon master to actually run the island. So the players get to, explore this island they've been reading about in this handout. There's like 200-page player handout, basically. And then get to explore that entire island. It's got like a full bestiary, and it's got flora and, different... it's a hex crawl kind of thing, so it's got different areas to explore. It's a really cool... like first-person account of a dungeon that you get to read and then explore. I've been thinking about running that, but they have a lot of items like that. And there's a G-string like that. I can't remember what I think it's like you don't have to eat or drink at all while you wear it, but it never fits quite right. And it's got some other things about it. But I remember reading it, I'm like, oh, Something about cod pieces and G-strings in the D&D world. They've always been present. They're just like They've always been around. I don't know why. I don't fully understand it, but you need a cod piece in a mythical world.
Yes, yes.
But on that note, I'm gonna put on my own facial cod piece before I go to the grocery store, because it's a dangerous world out there. And get myself something to make for dinner for tonight and tomorrow night. But
All right.
Greg,
Great.
this has been awesome. This has been very illuminating for me. I'm gonna start using a lot of these tricks in my own game. Uh, Thank you so much for joining us here today. I've been Judge
You're
Zed.
welcome.
I'm gonna be back tomorrow with a stream about ancient coins. If you'd like to join me then, same time, same place here on Twitch and on YouTube. Be sure to give me a like, follow, subscribe, all that good stuff. Throw me a comment in the section below. Let me know what you think of these videos. And you'll see a lot more of them coming up. Be sure to check out my Patreon, where we've got some exclusive content finally out for my Patreon subscribers. And I will talk to you all very soon. Have a good week at your table, and I'll see you then.